Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. Your body is not simply living in the present, but carrying the echoes of every age you've ever been. The child you once were still whispers in your cells, the teenager still pulses in your heartbeat, the adult still shapes your breath. To grow older is to travel through time without ever leaving your skin. And since this is a shared journey, let's make it personal. I'd love for you to share in the comments your date of birth, the place you're listening from, and what time it is for you right now. It's always fascinating to see how people scattered across the world are connected in this exact moment. Different hours, different skies, yet listening to the same story together. We've set ourselves a gentle milestone of reaching 10 subscribers, and if you'd like to help us along, you can subscribe now. And when this video ends, take a look at the other explorations on this channel. Each one is another path, another story waiting for you. Now let us begin. Aging is often described in numbers, birthdays marked, candles counted, years tallied one after another. But in truth, aging is less like arithmetic and more like a river. You do not notice each drop that flows past, but you feel the current shaping the banks, deepening the channels, altering the landscape. Every breath you take is already different from the one before. Every cell in your body is older than it was just a moment ago. Aging is not something that begins at 40 or 50. It is happening now, quietly, invisibly, from the very first moment of life. Think of your DNA, the code written before you were born. It began perfect enough to build you, but with every copy, every replication, tiny errors creep in. Cells repair what they can, but the scars remain, stacking slowly like faint etchings on ancient stone. This is why your skin does not look the same at 50 as it did at 15. It is why bones stiffen, muscles thin, and hair raise. Aging is not sudden, it is a quiet accumulation, a story written molecule by molecule, and yet to age is not only to decline, it is also to adapt. In your 20s, your body races forward, building, growing, and reproducing. In your 30s and 40s, it begins to balance, conserving strength, repairing carefully, conserving energy, and later still it shifts again, becoming slower but often wiser, trading speed for stability and strength for resilience. As we begin this exploration together, I invite you to think of your own body not as something slipping away, but as something traveling, like a vessel moving through time. Each wrinkle, each gray hair, each slower step is not failure. It is evidence of the miles you've already walked. Aging is not an ending, but a journey into deeper layers of self, memory, and existence. Tonight, we will wander through that journey, uncovering the science of why we grow old and the beauty hidden within it. The cellular clockwork of aging. If you could shrink yourself down and step inside a single human cell, you would enter a world as busy as any city. Highways of proteins move cargo back and forth. Machines made of molecules assemble new parts, and deep inside the nucleus lies DNA, the master script. At first glance, everything seems timeless, as though life might run forever. But look closer, and you'll see that the city is quietly wearing down. One of the most striking examples is the mitochondria, often called the powerhouses of the cell. They produce the energy your body needs to survive. Every thought, every heartbeat, every breath is powered by their work. But like engines running non-stop, mitochondria are not perfect. Over time, their efficiency declines. They produce energy less cleanly, spilling out more free radicals, which damage the very cell they are supposed to power. It is as if the city's power plant begins polluting the streets it was meant to keep lit. This gradual decline in energy production is one of the reasons our bodies weaken as we grow older. Then there are the proteins. Imagine the infrastructure of your city. Let's see the bridges, the buildings, the pipes. Proteins play this role inside cells. But just like steel rusts and concrete cracks, proteins also become damaged. Some fold the wrong way, some clump together in sticky tangles that the cell cannot clear. You may have heard of Alzheimer's disease, in which protein clumps called amyloid plaques disrupt the brain. These are extreme cases of something happening on a smaller scale throughout the body every day. Proteins slowly breaking down. Cells have systems to repair themselves, but those systems weaken with age. Autophagy, literally self-eating, is the process by which cells recycle damaged components. When you are young, autophagy is efficient. Old parts are cleared out, making way for new ones. But with age, this recycling slows. Old parts accumulate. The city becomes cluttered, the streets crowded with broken machinery. The result is less efficiency, less resilience, and more vulnerability to disease. Even communication between cells begins to falter. When you cut yourself, skin cells rush to repair the wound. When you catch a cold, immune cells swarm to fight off invaders. These responses rely on precise signals sent back and forth. But as the years pass, those signals become less sharp. The immune system, in particular, weakens. This is why older people are more vulnerable to infections and why vaccines become less effective. It is not just the body's walls that crack with age. It is the very language cells use to defend themselves. Scientists sometimes speak of inflammaging, the slow rise of chronic inflammation as we grow older. Unlike the sharp pain and redness you feel when you injure yourself, inflammaging is a quiet, smoldering process. The immune system stays on low alert, releasing chemicals that, over decades, wear down tissues and organs. It is one of the hidden undercurrents of aging, linking to heart disease, diabetes, and even dementia. Yet for all this breakdown, life persists. Even as systems weaken, your body continues to adapt, to repair, to carry you forward. There is something astonishing about this resilience. Think of someone who has lived 100 years. Their cells have undergone billions of divisions, their DNA has faced constant assault, their mitochondria have declined, and yet here they are, still alive, still themselves. The machinery may be fragile, but the persistence of life is extraordinary. Some animals do this far better than us. Take the naked mole rat, for example. These odd little rodents can live more than 30 years, far longer than most mammals their size. Even more remarkably, they seem resistant to cancer, one of the great killers of aging. Scientists study them closely, hoping to uncover what protects their cells so well. Or consider certain species of turtles that appear to age so slowly they seem almost immune to time. In these creatures, the cellular clocks tick differently, reminding us that aging is not one universal rule, but a spectrum written by evolution. For humans, though, the story remains bittersweet. Our cells are masterpieces of engineering, but they carry flaws that accumulate over the years. It is as though the blueprints of life were drawn with both brilliance and imperfection. Good enough to ensure survival, but not designed for eternity. So when you feel the stiffness in your joints, the slower recovery from illness, or the quiet decline of energy with age, remember, it is not failure. It is the natural rhythm of the cellular clock. The city is still alive, still working, still carrying you forward. But its streets are older now, its machines a little more worn, its signals a little slower. And yet there is beauty in this. Aging is not just decay, it is a record of survival. Every wrinkle, every grey hair, every scar is proof that your cells have endured the long passage of time. You are not simply falling apart. You are carrying the weight of decades, a living archive of life itself. The DNA blueprint and its fragile edges. Every story of life is written in DNA, that long spiral ladder curled inside each of your cells. It is both a map and a memory, carrying the instructions that allow your body to grow, repair, and survive. Yet like any manuscript copied too many times, DNA accumulates errors, and those errors are among the deepest reasons why we grow old. At the ends of each DNA strand sit telomeres. those protective caps often compared to the tips of shoelaces. When you are young, telomeres are long and strong, but with every cell division, they shorten, and eventually they reach a point where the cell can no longer safely divide. This is when the cell enters a state called senescence. A senescent cell doesn't die immediately, but it stops functioning as it should. Worse, it begins releasing inflammatory signals like a broken machine leaking toxic smoke into its surroundings. One by one, senescent cells accumulate and tissues lose their ability to renew themselves. Imagine your body as a vast library with DNA as the books on the shelves. When the books are new, the words are crisp, the pages smooth, the knowledge intact. But with age, the ink fades, pages tear, and whole passages are lost. Even the best librarians, your cellular repair systems, cannot keep up with the damage. Over time, the library of life becomes harder to read, and the body begins to falter. But DNA damage doesn't only come from within. The world around us leaves its signature too. Ultraviolet light from the sun slices into DNA, creating mutations. Chemicals in the environment slip into the code, changing its letters. Even the food we eat and the air we breathe can add to the burden. Slowly, these changes accumulate. Most are small, but some are enough to disrupt the instructions that keep cells healthy. This is one reason cancer becomes more common with age. The longer we live, the more opportunities there are for dangerous errors to appear in our DNA, and yet, for all its fragility, DNA is also astonishingly resilient. Cells have proofreading systems that constantly scan the code for mistakes and repair them. Enzymes cut out damaged pieces and replace them. Whole sections can be rebuilt with remarkable precision. Think about it. Every second in your body right now, countless repairs are being made, tiny fixes that keep you alive. Without them, life would collapse in days. But these systems too weaken with age. Repair becomes slower, less accurate, and the errors pile higher. What is fascinating is that not all species age in the same way. Some have evolved better DNA maintenance than others. Certain whales, for example, live for more than 200 years, their massive bodies carrying billions of cells without succumbing to cancer as often as humans might. Why? Part of the answer lies in their DNA repair systems, which seem more robust. Their telomeres remain stable far longer. In studying such animals, scientists hope to discover secrets that might one day help extend human life. There is another layer here, one that feels almost philosophical. DNA is not just biology, it is history. Every one of your cells carries a story billions of years old, stretching back to the first life on Earth. But in each generation of cells, that story is copied with imperfections, like a tale retold too many times. Aging, in this sense, is the price of memory itself. To preserve the story of life, we accept the slow accumulation of flaws. Some researchers dream of rewriting the script using tools like CRISPR to repair DNA or extend telomeres artificially. Imagine a future where we could reset the cellular clock, allowing cells to divide endlessly without faltering. It sounds like science fiction, yet experiments in laboratories show hints of possibility. Mice given treatments that lengthen telomeres have shown signs of rejuvenation. Human cells grown in dishes can be pushed back toward youth. But with each breakthrough comes caution. After all, cancer is also a disease of immortality. Cells that refuse to stop dividing. To grant eternal youth to cells may also unleash dangers we cannot yet control. So here we are, balanced on a delicate thread. DNA gives us life, but it also carries the seeds of aging. Telomeres shorten, errors accumulate, cells grow weary, and we in turn grow old. Yet within that fragility is something profound, a reminder that life is precious precisely because it cannot last forever. The blueprint fades, the pages crumble, but the story continues through us, through our children, and through the endless chain of life stretching back to the dawn of time. Aging may feel like decline, but it is also continuity. Each line in our DNA, each wrinkle on our skin, is proof that the story is still being told. The aging brain and the passage of memory. When most people think of aging, they picture the body. Wrinkled skin, tired muscles, slower steps. But perhaps the most profound changes happen not in the body, but in the mind. The brain, that remarkable organ of thought and memory, is also shaped by time. And while it holds on to astonishing resilience, it is not untouched by the years. The human brain is made of billions of neurons, each one forming connections with thousands of others. These connections, synapses, are what allow us to think, learn, and remember. When you are young, the brain is flooded with plasticity. New connections are formed easily and learning feels natural, almost effortless. Think of a child absorbing language or mastering a skill in weeks that might take an adult years. This flexibility is youth's greatest strength, but as time passes, that plasticity slowly declines. Neurons become less responsive and synapses lose their strength. Learning new things becomes more difficult, and memory doesn't flow as smoothly. It's not that the brain stops working, far from it, but its efficiency decreases. Like an old computer, it still runs, but more slowly, with pauses and occasional glitches. One of the key players in this process is the hippocampus, the region of the brain central to memory. It's here that new memories are formed before being stored more permanently elsewhere. As we age, the hippocampus shrinks in size. The ability to form new memories declines, which is why many older people can recall childhood experiences clearly but struggle to remember what they had for breakfast yesterday. The past grows sharper while the present becomes slippery. Chemical messengers in the brain also change. Dopamine, which fuels motivation and reward, declines, leading to slower responses and sometimes reduced drive. Serotonin, which stabilizes mood, can waver, contributing to the emotional changes we often associate with age. These are not just numbers in a lab test. They shape the daily experience of being human, altering how we feel, react, and perceive the world. And then there is the shadow of disease. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other neurodegenerative disorders loom larger with age. They are not inevitable. Many people live long lives with sharp minds, but the risk increases with each decade. In Alzheimer's, protein plaques and tangles disrupt communication between neurons, eventually leading to memory loss and confusion. It is a painful reminder that the brain, for all its brilliance, is a fragile organ. Yet there is another side to this story, one less often told. Not all aspects of the brain decline. Some improve with age. Emotional regulation, for example, often becomes stronger. Older adults tend to have more stable moods, less reactive anger, and a greater ability to see the big picture. Wisdom, that elusive blend of knowledge and perspective, grows richer with the years. The brain may be slower, but it can be deeper, trading speed for insight. And while plasticity declines, it never vanishes. The brain retains the ability to change and grow even into old age. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, and it has been shown again and again. People in their 70s can learn new languages, pick up new instruments, and even rewire their brains after strokes. Age makes it harder, yes, but not impossible. The capacity for growth remains like an ember that never quite dies. Consider too how memory itself is not just biology but identity. Every story you tell, every person you recognize, every place you recall is woven from fragile threads of neurons firing. As we age, those threads may fray, but they are also layered with meaning. An old photograph may spark not just a memory, but a flood of associations. The smell of a season, the sound of a voice, the warmth of a feeling. In this way, even as memory falters, its depth grows richer, carrying decades of experience in each recollection. So the aging brain is not simply a story of loss, it is a story of transformation. Faster learning gives way to slower, deeper understanding. Bright emotions soften into steadier calm. Memories blur, but their meaning deepens. Yes, there are risks and shadows, but there is also beauty. a different kind of brilliance that belongs only to later life. To age in the mind is to change the way we see the world. Perhaps youth is about collecting experiences while age is about weaving them into a pattern. Perhaps the gift of the aging brain is not speed, but perspective. The body's changing landscape, aging is not just something we feel inside. It is written across the surface of our bodies. Skin wrinkles, hair thins, muscles weaken, and senses fade. These outward changes are more than appearances, Gal. They are signals of the deeper shifts happening beneath the surface. Each mark, each line is the visible echo of invisible processes unfolding over decades. Take the skin, for instance. When you are young, it is firm and elastic, thanks to proteins like collagen and elastin woven through its layers. These proteins act like scaffolding, holding everything in place. But as the years pass, collagen production slows, elastin breaks down, and the scaffolding weakens. Gravity does the rest. Wrinkles and sagging are not signs of failure. They are the natural consequence of time loosening the bonds that once kept skin taut. Add to that the lifelong exposure to sunlight, which damages DNA and fibers in the skin, and the story becomes even clearer. Hair, too, carries the signature of age. Each strand is colored by pigment-producing cells called melanocytes. With time, these cells falter. Less pigment is produced and hair grows in gray, then white. It is a quiet reminder that even the smallest cells are governed by clocks that eventually wind down. Some embrace the silver as a mark of wisdom, others fight to hide it. But either way, it is a universal sign. Time is passing. Muscles tell another part of the story. When you are young, muscle fibers are thick and strong, ready to repair after strain. But beginning in your 30s, muscle mass starts to decline in a process called sarcopenia. Fibers shrink, repair slows, and strength fades. This is why tasks once effortless, lifting groceries, climbing stairs, even rising from a chair, grow harder with age. Bones join the decline. With less density and more brittleness, fractures become more common. The skeleton that carried you so reliably begins to demand more care. The senses, sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch, also shift under time's influence. The lens of the eye stiffens, making it harder to focus on close objects. This is why so many people reach for reading glasses as they age. Hearing fades too, especially high frequencies, as delicate hair cells in the inner ear die off and are never replaced. Taste buds dull, smells grow fainter, and touch loses its sharpness. These changes can seem small, but they reshape the way we experience the world. The brightness of colors, the sharpness of music, the flavor of food, all of it softens with age, and yet there is beauty in this softening. Many older adults report that while sharpness declines, appreciation grows. A simple meal tastes richer when shared with loved ones. A quiet song carries deeper meaning when it echoes with memories. In this way, the senses do not just fade, they transform, shifting from intensity to resonance. The cardiovascular system, the heart and blood vessels, also carries the burden of years. Arteries stiffen, blood pressure rises, and the heart has to work harder to pump. The risk of disease grows, but so does the importance of resilience. Even in old age, the heart adapts, building new pathways, sustaining life against remarkable odds. Each beat, after all, is proof of survival, carried forward second by second. The immune system, too, weakens with time. Once sharp and aggressive, it becomes slower, less coordinated. This decline, called immunosenescence, is one reason older adults are more vulnerable to infections and why vaccines often work less effectively. The body's defenses, like an old army, remain standing but less agile, slower to respond to threats. At the same time, inflammaging, the chronic low-level inflammation mentioned earlier, becomes more prominent, quietly wearing down organs from within. And still, for all these changes, the body adapts. People run marathons in their 70s, climb mountains in their 80s, and dance into their 90s. Science shows that regular movement, good nutrition, and social connection can slow many of these declines. Aging may be inevitable, but its pace is not fixed. The body's landscape shifts, but we can still choose how to walk through it. Aging leaves marks, yes, but they are not only signs of loss. Wrinkles can be reminders of laughter and sorrow. Silver hair can be a crown of years lived. Scars can be proof of healing. The body tells its story in textures and lines, and if we listen closely, we find not just decline, but resilience. The aging immune system. Why defenses weaken with time. From the moment you were born, your immune system became your silent guardian. It learned to recognize dangers, built memory of past infections, and mounted defenses that kept you alive. In youth, this army is strong and flexible. It responds swiftly to invaders, repairs damage, and remembers enemies for years to come. But as time passes, even this remarkable shield begins to weaken. The process has a name: immunosenescence. It is the slow fading of immune strength as the years advance. White blood cells that once rushed into battle with precision become slower, less accurate. The thymus, a small organ behind your breastbone where many immune cells mature, begins to shrink as early as your 20s. By middle age, it is a shadow of its youthful self, and by old age, much of its function is gone. Without its guidance, fewer fresh immune cells are trained, leaving the body to rely on older, less adaptable defenders. This decline explains why infections that are mild in children can be dangerous in older adults. The flu, for example, can linger longer, strike harder, and leave lasting complications. Pneumonia, once called the old man's friend, becomes a frequent threat. Even small wounds may heal more slowly as the immune system struggles to coordinate repair. But immunosenescence does not only affect how we fight disease, it also alters how the body regulates itself. Older immune systems are prone to a quiet, persistent inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging. It is not dramatic, like the swelling from an injury, but low-level and constant. This invisible fire contributes to heart disease, diabetes, and even cognitive decline. The very system meant to protect us begins in small ways to turn against us, and yet there is resilience too. Vaccines remain effective, though sometimes less so, and scientists adjust them to meet the needs of older bodies. Lifestyle plays a powerful role as well. Regular exercise boosts circulation of immune cells, while a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains nourishes them. Even sleep, often overlooked, is vital. During deep rest, the immune system resets, strengthening its memory and sharpening its readiness. Around the world, researchers search for ways to preserve immunity longer. Some study compounds that might rejuvenate the thymus, coaxing it to grow again. Others test drugs that could clear out malfunctioning immune cells, making room for fresh recruits. There are even experiments in immune clock therapy, reading patterns of immune aging and finding ways to slow them. For now, though, the immune system remains one of the clearest examples of why we grow old. Just as muscles weaken and bones thin, so too does our defense. But this weakness is not total. Even in late life, the immune system adapts. It may be slower, but it remembers. It may falter, but it still fights. And often, what it loses in speed, it gains in balance, avoiding the overreactions of youth that can sometimes do more harm than good. Think of it like an old soldier, no longer quick to charge, but still steady, still watchful, still carrying the memory of many battles. The immune system in age reflects the body itself. Not gone, not broken, but transformed. So as we look at why we grow old, we see that it is not only our outward appearance that changes. Beneath the skin, in the silent work of cells, time leaves its mark. Aging is not a story written only on the surface, but deep in the hidden defenses that have kept you alive since birth. How lifestyle shapes the speed of aging. If biology sets the blueprint for aging, lifestyle is the pen that writes the details. Genes and cells create the framework, but the choices we make every day, what we eat, how we move, how we rest, even how we think, determine how fast or slow that framework weathers under time. Two people the same age can look and feel decades apart, and often the difference lies not in destiny, but in daily habits. Food is one of the clearest examples. The body is not built to run on excess. Diets rich in processed foods, sugar, and unhealthy fats create constant stress inside cells, overwhelming repair systems and fueling chronic inflammation. Over time, this accelerates aging, making tissues more fragile and organs more vulnerable. In contrast, diets rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts, and healthy fats seem to slow the pace. Antioxidants in plants help neutralize free radicals, while fibers feed the gut microbiome. Trillions of tiny organisms that play a surprising role in immunity and even mood. A healthy gut, scientists are learning, may be one of the hidden keys to a longer life. There is also the paradox of calories. Studies in animals show that reducing calorie intake without malnutrition, a practice called caloric restriction, can extend lifespan. The mechanism seems to involve reduced stress on cells and more efficient repair. While humans are more complex, research hints that moderation, rather than indulgence, may give our bodies more years of resilience. Movement is another powerful tool. Muscles may weaken with age, but exercise can slow the decline dramatically. Even light activity, walking, stretching, gardening, improves circulation, strengthens bones, and keeps joints flexible. More vigorous exercise like resistance training or aerobic activity not only preserves strength but also stimulates processes inside cells that promote repair. Exercise seems to switch on longevity pathways as though the body recognizes effort as a signal to maintain itself. Then there is sleep. In youth, we take it for granted. In age, we miss it dearly. Sleep is when the body repairs, when the brain clears out waste, and when memory is consolidated. Poor sleep accelerates nearly every marker of aging: higher inflammation, weaker immunity, faster cognitive decline. A night of rest, in contrast, is like a reset button, giving cells a chance to catch up on the endless work of repair. The lesson is simple but powerful. Treating sleep as a priority is one of the best ways to slow the march of time. Stress, too, plays its part. Short bursts of stress can sharpen the mind and prepare the body, but chronic stress, the kind that never seems to end, erodes health. It raises cortisol levels, suppresses immunity, and even shortens telomeres, those fragile caps on our DNA. The mind and body are deeply intertwined, and constant emotional strain can leave marks as visible as any scar. Practices like meditation, mindfulness, or even simple daily pauses can buffer the impact, helping the body return to balance. Environment also matters. Air pollution damages lungs and blood vessels. Excessive sun exposure accelerates skin aging. Even loneliness is often overlooked as a factor. People who feel isolated tend to age faster, both physically and mentally. In contrast, social connection appears to protect health. Having friends, family, or even a supportive community reduces stress, encourages healthier behavior, and provides a sense of purpose. In this way, relationships are not just emotional needs but biological necessities, woven into the story of how long and how well we live. Perhaps the most fascinating part of lifestyle and aging is its plasticity. It is never too late to change. Even in later life, improvements in diet, exercise, or sleep can reverse markers of decline. The body responds to care at every stage, repairing, adapting, and finding new strength. The choices we make cannot stop aging, but they can bend its curve, delaying its sharpest edges and giving us more years of vitality. So while the blueprint of biology is written in our cells, the details of how we age are written by our hands day by day. What we put on our plate, how we move our bodies, how we rest our minds. These are not just habits, but threads that weave the fabric of our future. Hormones, and the clocks of the body if DNA is the blueprint and lifestyle the daily brush strokes, then hormones are the timekeepers of life. These chemical messengers, produced by glands scattered throughout the body, regulate everything from growth and reproduction to mood and metabolism. But like all clocks, they do not tick forever with the same rhythm. Over time, hormone levels shift, and those changes ripple through every part of the body, shaping the way we age. Consider growth hormone, abundant in youth. It fuels childhood growth, strengthens bones, builds muscle, and speeds repair. But as early as our 20s, its levels begin to decline. By middle age, they are a fraction of what they once were. Without this hormone's constant push, muscle mass shrinks, fat accumulates, and healing slows. The body becomes less efficient, not because it has forgotten how to repair, but because the signals telling it to do so have grown quieter. Sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone tell another part of the story. In women, estrogen and progesterone drop sharply during menopause, leading to hot flashes, bone loss, and changes in mood and memory. In men, testosterone declines more gradually but still brings shifts in energy, strength, and libido. These changes are not just physical. They shape identity and experience, redefining what it means to live in an aging body. Cortisol, the stress hormone, also plays a role. In short bursts, it helps the body respond to challenges, but when it lingers too long, it wears down tissues, weakens immunity, and accelerates aging. Older adults often have higher baseline levels of cortisol, reflecting a body less able to reset itself after stress. The result is a system always slightly on edge, a constant hum of strain that erodes resilience. Then there is insulin, the hormone that regulates blood sugar. Over time, many people develop insulin resistance, where cells respond less effectively to its signal. This is one reason why type 2 diabetes becomes more common with age. But insulin is not only about sugar, it is also linked to pathways of growth and longevity. In fact, studies suggest that lower insulin activity, when balanced and healthy, is associated with longer lifespans. It is as if the body trades speed for endurance, giving up rapid growth in exchange for slow preservation. Another key player is melatonin, the hormone that guides sleep. Produced in the brain's pineal gland, it rises at night and falls during the day, keeping circadian rhythms aligned. With age, melatonin production declines, and sleep becomes lighter and more fragmented. This loss of deep rest does more than cause fatigue. It weakens memory, raises inflammation, and strains nearly every system. In this sense, aging is partly the story of a clock losing its sync with the cycles of nature. Thyroid hormones, too, shape the pace of life. Produced by a small gland in the neck, they regulate metabolism, how quickly the body uses energy. As thyroid function shifts with age, metabolism slows, contributing to weight gain and fatigue. The fire that once burned hot inside gradually dims, altering the balance between energy and rest. Together, these hormonal changes form a symphony of signals that grows quieter with time. The body becomes less directed, less forceful, more fragile. Yet it is not all decline. Some shifts bring advantages. Lower levels of certain hormones reduce the risk of cancers that depend on them. A slower metabolism conserves resources. Even reduced fertility allows the body to shift energy toward maintenance rather than reproduction. Aging is not only loss but also adaptation, a reshaping of priorities written in chemistry. Scientists are now exploring whether these hormonal changes can be slowed, reversed, or balanced. Hormone replacement therapies aim to restore youthful levels of estrogen or testosterone, sometimes with dramatic effects on energy and vitality. But these treatments also carry risks from cancer to cardiovascular disease. The body, after all, has evolved to follow this decline for reasons we may not fully understand. To tamper with the clock is to take a gamble with forces more ancient than we can imagine. What is clear is that hormones are not just invisible signals, they are the rhythm of life itself. They rise in youth like a symphony building toward crescendo, then soften in age, their notes fading into quieter tones. They shape our bodies, our emotions, our very sense of self. To understand aging, we must understand the clocks ticking inside us, reminding us that time is not only counted in years, but also in molecules drifting silently through our blood. The immune system. When defenses grow old, from the moment you are born, your immune system becomes your silent guardian. It learns, adapts, and defends against a world filled with invisible threats. Every cut you heal, every fever you endure, every illness you overcome is proof of its vigilance. But like all parts of the body, the immune system does not stay strong forever. With age, its power fades, and the consequences ripple across health, resilience, and longevity. This decline is called immunosenescence. It does not arrive suddenly but creeps in over decades. The thymus, an organ tucked behind your breastbone, is one of the first signs. In youth, it is active, producing fresh T-cell, with the immune soldiers trained to recognize and fight new invaders. But by the time you reach adulthood, the thymus begins to shrink, slowly turning into fat. With fewer new T-cells entering circulation, the body's ability to face unfamiliar viruses or bacteria diminishes. At the same time, older immune cells grow less effective. They respond more slowly to signals and often overreact, causing unnecessary inflammation. This leads to a strange paradox. The immune system becomes weaker in defense, yet more aggressive in attack. Scientists call this inflammaging, a state of chronic, low-level inflammation that wears down tissues over time. It is like a guard that no longer stops intruders but still keeps firing bullets, damaging its own walls in the process. The consequences are far-reaching. Older adults heal more slowly from wounds, recover less fully from infections, and respond less effectively to vaccines. A cut that might heal in days during youth can linger for weeks in old age. A flu that once caused only discomfort can become life-threatening. And while the immune system falters, cancer cells, once swiftly eliminated, find more chances to grow, but there are quieter, less obvious effects as well. The immune system is deeply linked to aging throughout the body. Inflammaging contributes to heart disease, Alzheimer's, arthritis, and even frailty. It is not simply about catching cold. It is about the slow erosion of balance across every organ. Still, there is resilience. The immune system does not vanish with age, it adapts. Some immune responses remain strong, particularly those trained by long exposure. This is why older adults often retain protection against diseases they encountered in childhood. The immune system, even when aged, remembers its battles. Its memory cells, those that recall pathogens, can last decades, sometimes longer than the person themselves. And while the decline is real, it is not fixed. Lifestyle has enormous influence here too. Regular exercise improves immune surveillance, making cells more responsive. Diets rich in vitamins, minerals, and healthy fats support the delicate machinery of defense. Even social connection matters. Loneliness has been shown to suppress immunity, while companionship strengthens it. The immune system, in a sense, listens not just to biology but to the environment, reflecting both the body's state and the spirit's. There is also promise in science. Vaccines tailored to older adults, therapies that target inflammaging, and even regenerative approaches to boost the thymus are being explored. The dream is not to stop aging, but to preserve immunity long enough to make the later years not just longer, but safer. Think of it this way: the immune system is a fortress. In youth, its walls are high, its guards alert, its gates strong. With time, the walls crack, the guards grow tired, and the gates weaken. Yet the fortress still stands. May not repel every invader, but with care it can endure. And in its memory, in the scars of past battles, lies wisdom, a record of every threat you have survived. So when we speak of aging, we are not only speaking of wrinkles or grey hair. We are speaking of this quiet army within, a force that once fought with fire and now fights with embers. To grow old is to live with a fortress that is warm but not broken, one that still shelters life against the vast and restless world. Hormones and aging. The body's shifting signals. If the body is a grand orchestra, then hormones are its conductors, invisible messengers that cue growth, regulate energy, shape mood, and guide sleep. From the first breath of life, hormones orchestrate the rhythm of existence. But like every conductor, they too age, their signals softening, their timing shifting. And as those signals change, the music of the body changes with them. One of the most visible shifts happens in sex hormones. For women, estrogen and progesterone are central not only to reproduction, but also to bone health, heart function, and even cognitive clarity. Around midlife, as menopause arrives, these hormones decline dramatically. The result is not only the end of fertility, but hot flashes, changes in sleep, and a greater risk of osteoporosis and cardiovascular disease. For men, testosterone falls more gradually, a slow ebb across decades. Lower levels influence muscle mass, energy, libido, and sometimes mood. Beyond reproduction, there is the quiet power of growth hormone and insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1. In youth, these drive development, healing, and metabolism. But as years pass, they decline. Wounds close more slowly, muscles rebuild with greater effort, and fat is stored more readily. Energy that once surged becomes more precious, requiring careful use. Cortisol, the stress hormone, also shifts with age. Once sharp and reactive, its rhythm blurs. Many older adults experience higher baseline cortisol, which can quietly wear on the heart, blood vessels, and brain. It is a paradox. The very hormone that kept our ancestors alive in moments of danger may, over long spans of time, erode resilience. Sleep is guided by another crucial signal, melatonin. Produced in the pineal gland, melatonin regulates the sleep-wake cycle, rising at night like a gentle whisper to rest. With age, production falls and sleep becomes lighter, shorter, or more fragmented. The result is not just fatigue, but reduced restoration, since deep sleep is when the body repairs tissues, strengthens memory, and recalibrates the immune system. Even insulin, the hormone that balances blood sugar, becomes less effective over time. Cells resist its call, forcing the pancreas to work harder. The consequence is higher risk of type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome, conditions tightly linked with aging. Yet hormones are not simply lost. They adapt. In many cases, lower levels of growth or sex hormones protect against cancer, since unchecked cell growth becomes less likely. The body is always negotiating, always balancing risks and benefits, even as signals shift. Science is deeply invested in these changes. Hormone replacement therapies, from estrogen for women to testosterone for men, remain common, though they come with both benefits and risks. Researchers also study lifestyle as a natural regulator. Exercise, for example, boosts growth hormone and testosterone. Bright light in the morning sharpens melatonin cycles at night. Even simple practices like regular meals, stress reduction, and adequate sleep keep hormonal rhythms steadier in older age. When you think of hormones, think not only of chemistry, but of rhythm. Each hormone rises and falls in patterns like tides. Youth is a season of high tide, signals surging in every direction. Later years are more like low tide. The waters recede, but the ocean remains. The body does not go silent. It simply plays a slower, softer melody, and in that slower music, there is meaning. Older adults may sleep less deeply, but they often wake earlier, enjoying quiet mornings. They may have less muscle, but often carry more patience. They may lose certain drives, but gain stability. The shifting hormones do not erase life. They reshape it. So why do we grow old? Partly because the messengers that once commanded growth and energy begin to whisper instead of shout. And yet that whisper carries wisdom. It tells us that life is not meant to stay the same, but to change in texture and rhythm. The hormones age with us, and in their shifting signals, they remind us that time is not an enemy, but a composer writing new music for every stage of life. The aging heart and circulatory system. The heart is perhaps the most faithful companion we have. From the moment of birth until the final breath, it beats without rest, day and night, a constant rhythm that sustains life. By the time a person reaches 70, their heart will have beaten more than 2.5 billion times. But as with every part of the body, time leaves its mark. The cardiovascular system, the heart, and the network of blood vessels that surround it, ages with us, and its changes shape much of what we call growing old. One of the most important changes is arterial stiffness. In youth, arteries are flexible, expanding and contracting with each heartbeat like elastic bands. This flexibility keeps blood flowing smoothly and reduces strain on the heart. But over time, the walls of arteries harden. Collagen builds up, elastin breaks down, and calcium deposits settle in. The vessels become less like elastic bands and more like rigid pipes. As a result, blood pressure rises, forcing the heart to pump harder. This added strain slowly remodels the heart itself. The left ventricle, the chamber responsible for pumping blood to the body, often thickens with age. At first, this is an adaptation, a way for the heart to cope with higher pressure. But thickened walls can eventually reduce efficiency, limiting the heart's ability to fill properly. The rhythm of contraction and relaxation, systole and diastole, begins to lose its balance. The electrical system of the heart also shifts with age. Specialized cells that keep the heartbeat steady can become less reliable. This is why arrhythmias, or irregular heart rhythms, grow more common with age. Sometimes these are harmless. Other times they pose serious risks. The quiet, dependable tick of youth becomes a little less steady, reminding us that even the strongest muscles need care. The circulation itself changes too. Capillaries, the tiniest blood vessels, may decline in number or efficiency. Tissues receive less oxygen and fewer nutrients. Healing slows, endurance fades, and fatigue grows more common. These subtle changes ripple outward, touching every organ, because every organ depends on blood. Yet despite all this, the heart is remarkably resilient. It is designed not for perfection, but for endurance. Many people live into their 80s or 90s with hearts that continue to beat reliably, adapting to each challenge. Even in the face of stiff arteries and thickened walls, the heart finds ways to keep life flowing. Of course, disease is a constant risk. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death worldwide, often fueled not only by age, but also by lifestyle. Diets heavy in salt and fat, years of smoking, sedentary living. These habits add weight to the burden of aging. But the reverse is also true. A lifetime of movement, a balanced diet, and avoidance of toxins can keep the cardiovascular system strong far longer than biology alone would predict. Scientists have also uncovered fascinating links between cardiovascular health and the aging process itself. Poor circulation doesn't just affect the heart, it accelerates decline in the brain, the muscles, and even the skin. On the other hand, maintaining a healthy heart seems to slow the pace of aging across the body. In this sense, the heart is not just a pump. It is a central measure of vitality. There are poetic truths hidden here too. The heart, long a symbol of love and courage, is also a literal record of resilience. Scars on its muscles show past struggles. A slowed beat tells of years carried. Each pulse is a whisper that life continues even in frailty. To age in the heart is to feel the weight of billions of beats and still find rhythm in the silence of night. The circulatory system reminds us of a simple fact. Life is flow. Blood carries oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and waste. It is motion itself that sustains us. And so, aging in the heart and vessels is not just a decline, but a slowing of flow, a narrowing of pathways, a soft reminder that all rivers, even those inside us, eventually quiet. Still, there is beauty in its endurance. The heart keeps beating even as it weakens, carrying us through decades of joy and sorrow. To listen to its rhythm is to hear the passage of time itself, steady, unrelenting, and precious. The aging heart and circulatory system. The heart is perhaps the most faithful companion we have. From the moment of birth until the final breath, it beats without rest, day and night, a constant rhythm that sustains life. By the time a person reaches 70, their heart will have beaten more than 2.5 billion times. But as with every part of the body, time leaves its mark. The cardiovascular system, the heart and the network of blood vessels that surround it, ages with us, and its changes shape much of what we call growing old. One of the most important changes is arterial stiffness. In youth, arteries are flexible, expanding and contracting with each heartbeat like elastic bands. This flexibility keeps blood flowing smoothly and reduces strain on the heart. But over time, the walls of arteries harden. Collagen builds up, elastin breaks down, and calcium deposits settle in. The vessels become less like elastic bands and more like rigid pipes. As a result, blood pressure rises, forcing the heart to pump harder. This added strain slowly remodels the heart itself. The left ventricle, the chamber responsible for pumping blood to the body, often thickens with age. At first, this is an adaptation, a way for the heart to cope with higher pressure. But thickened walls can eventually reduce efficiency, limiting the heart's ability to fill properly. The rhythm of contraction and relaxation, systole and diastole, begins to lose its balance. The electrical system of the heart also shifts with age. Specialized cells that keep the heartbeat steady can become less reliable. This is why arrhythmias, or irregular heart rhythms, grow more common with age. Sometimes these are harmless, other times they pose serious risks. The quiet, dependable tick of youth becomes a little less steady, reminding us that even the strongest muscles need care. The circulation itself changes too. Capillaries, the tiniest blood vessels, may decline in number or efficiency. Tissues receive less oxygen and fewer nutrients. Healing slows, endurance fades, and fatigue grows more common. These subtle changes ripple outward, touching every organ because every organ depends on blood. Yet despite all this, the heart is remarkably resilient. It is designed not for perfection, but for endurance. Many people live into their 80s or 90s with hearts that continue to beat reliably, adapting to each challenge. Even in the face of stiff arteries and thickened walls, the heart finds ways to keep life flowing. Of course, disease is a constant risk. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death worldwide, often fueled not only by age, but also by lifestyle. Diets heavy in salt and fat, years of smoking, sedentary living. These habits add weight to the burden of aging, but the reverse is also true. A lifetime of movement, a balanced diet, and avoidance of toxins can keep the cardiovascular system strong far longer than biology alone would predict. Scientists have also uncovered fascinating links between cardiovascular health and the aging process itself. Poor circulation doesn't just affect the heart, it accelerates decline in the brain, the muscles, and even the skin. On the other hand, maintaining a healthy heart seems to slow the pace of aging across the body. In this sense, the heart is not just a pump. It is a central measure of vitality. There are poetic truths hidden here too. The heart, long a symbol of love and courage, is also a literal record of resilience. Scars on its muscle show past struggles. A slowed beat tells of years carried. Each pulse is a whisper that life continues even in frailty. To age in the heart is to feel the weight of billions of beats and still find rhythm in the silence of night. The circulatory system reminds us of a simple fact. Life is flow. Blood carries oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and waste. It is motion itself that sustains us. And so aging in the heart and vessels is not just a decline, but a slowing of flow, a narrowing of pathways, a soft reminder that all rivers, Even those inside us eventually quiet. Still, there is beauty in its endurance. The heart keeps beating even as it weakens, carrying us through decades of joy and the visible story. Skin, hair, and outward signs of time aging is written on the outside long before it is felt on the inside. The skin, hair, and outward appearance are the most visible reflections of time's passage. They tell a story that everyone can see, a story of years lived, challenges endured, and experiences carried. While the changes may seem superficial, they mirror profound biological processes happening within. The skin, our largest organ, is the canvas on which aging paints its clearest marks. In youth, it is supple, elastic, and resilient, thanks to proteins like collagen and elastin woven tightly into its structure. These fibers act like springs, allowing the skin to stretch and snap back, resisting gravity and damage. But with age, production of these proteins slows while existing fibers begin to fray. The springs loosen, the structure weakens, and the skin no longer bounces back. Wrinkles appear, folds deepen, and the once smooth surface becomes textured by time. Sunlight accelerates this transformation. Ultraviolet rays penetrate the skin, damaging DNA and breaking down collagen. Over decades, exposure builds up into what dermatologists call photoaging, the roughness, spots, and deep creases that often mark the skin of older adults. In this sense, every wrinkle is not just a mark of years, but also a record of hours spent under the sun. Hydration also shifts. Young skin is plump because it retains water well, supported by molecules like hyaluronic acid that act like sponges. With age, these molecules diminish, and the skin grows thinner, drier, and more fragile. Cuts take longer to heal, bruises spread more easily, and the barrier that once shielded us becomes more delicate. Hair tells another story. Each strand is colored by pigment produced in cells called melanocytes. Over time, these cells falter, producing less pigment until hair grows in gray or white. This change is not only about aesthetics. It reflects the decline of stem cells in hair follicles, tiny reservoirs of renewal that gradually run dry. The texture of hair also shifts, becoming finer or coarser, depending on genetics and hormones. Baldness in men and thinning in women are other visible echoes of time, written not in lines, but in absence. Nails, often overlooked, are part of this outward narrative too. They grow more slowly, becoming brittle and ridged. Even small details like these remind us that time reshapes the body in countless ways, some dramatic, some subtle. While these outward signs may feel like loss, they are also records of endurance. Each wrinkle can be traced to expressions, laughter, worry, wonder, carved into the skin by repetition. Silver hair is a crown of years lived, proof of a journey measured not just in time, but in survival. In cultures around the world, these marks are honored as symbols of wisdom and respect. Still, the outward signs of aging have long drawn human attention, often sparking efforts to resist them. Creams, treatments, and surgeries attempt to restore what was lost. While some methods can slow or soften the changes, none can stop the underlying biology. The pursuit of youth in appearance reflects both our fascination with time and our unease with its passage, yet there is beauty in embracing these signs for what they are, natural reflections of the same processes that allow us to grow, heal, and live. The skin and hair are not failing. They are simply following the rhythms of biology. To age visibly is to carry proof of existence on the outside, a mirror of everything that has unfolded within. The visible story of aging is, in a way, the most honest one. We cannot hide it entirely, and perhaps we should not. For in those lines, in those silver strands, lies the testimony of a life lived in full. The outward signs remind us that aging is not an enemy to defeat, but a narrative to recognize, one that connects us all under the same passage of time. Sorrow. To listen to its rhythm is to hear the passage of time itself. Steady, unrelenting, and precious. The aging brain and mind The human brain is the most complex structure we know, a 3-pound universe of connections, thoughts, and memories. It guides everything, from heartbeat to imagination, from survival instincts to dreams. Yet like all organs, it too changes with age, and its story is one of both decline and resilience. One of the most noticeable shifts is in memory. Short-term recall often weakens first. Names slip away, appointments are forgotten, and new information is harder to retain. This is not the same as dementia, but rather the normal slowing of a brain that has been working tirelessly for decades. The hippocampus, the region most responsible for forming new memories, tends to shrink with age. Neural circuits grow less efficient, signals move more slowly, and the sharpness of youth softens into the haziness of time. But memory is not only about loss. While short-term recall declines, long-term memory, particularly for events and emotions from earlier life, often remains strong. Many older adults vividly recall childhood moments or life milestones with clarity, even as yesterday's details fade. This persistence of deep memory is part of the brain's selective nature, holding on to what it deems most meaningful. Learning also changes. It may take longer to absorb new skills or adapt to new technology, but the brain never fully loses its capacity to learn. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself, continues into old age. Though slower, it remains real. Each new language learned, each puzzle solved, each story read strengthens connections and fosters growth, proving that even an aging brain is still capable of transformation. Processing speed, however, often slows. Decisions may take more time, reflexes are less sharp, and multitasking becomes difficult. This is partly due to a gradual loss of white matter, the insulation that speeds up signals between brain regions. The brain is still powerful, but it moves with a measured pace, preferring focus over haste. Emotionally, though, the aging brain holds unexpected strengths. Older adults often report greater stability and perspective. Stressful events feel less overwhelming, priorities become clearer, and small joys gain more meaning. This shift may be linked to changes in the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, which reacts less intensely to negative stimuli with age. In this sense, aging minds often carry a kind of quiet wisdom, trading raw speed for emotional balance. Of course, risks grow too. Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and other forms of dementia become more common with age. These conditions are not inevitable, but they remind us of the fragility of neuron. Tiny misfolded proteins or subtle chemical imbalances can gradually unravel years of memory and identity. Science continues to search for answers, looking at genetics, lifestyle, and even immune function for clues. What is striking is the brain's relationship with lifestyle. Regular exercise increases blood flow and even stimulates the growth of new neurons. A healthy diet, rich in omega-3s and antioxidants, supports brain cell membranes and reduces inflammation. Social interaction protects against cognitive decline, as does mental activity. Learning, reading, exploring. The aging brain may slow, but it responds to care with surprising resilience. There are even mysteries that suggest age brings hidden gifts. Many older adults display what psychologists call crystallized intelligence, the accumulation of knowledge, skills, and judgment built over a lifetime. While raw memory may falter, wisdom often flourishes. The ability to see patterns, offer guidance, or navigate complexity grows stronger, rooted in decades of experience. The brain is not simply an organ that wears out. It is a living library. Some shelves sag, some books are harder to find, but the collection grows richer with time. To age in the mind is to shift from speed to depth, from novelty to meaning. So when we speak of the aging brain, we are not only speaking of decline, but also of adaptation. It is true that names are forgotten and steps may slow, but it is also true that perspective deepens, emotions mellow, and wisdom rises. The mind, like the rest of the body, bends under time's weight. but it also finds new forms of strength, offering insights that only years can bring. The fading senses, sight, hearing, taste, and touch aging, is not only felt in the heart or the brain, it is experienced through the senses, the gateways that connect us to the world. Vision, hearing, taste, smell, and touch define daily life, shaping memory and experience. As the years pass, these senses often grow quieter, changing the way we perceive reality. Vision is one of the first senses where age leaves its mark. In youth, the lens of the eye is flexible, adjusting easily to focus on near or distant objects. But over time it stiffens, making close vision harder. This is why reading glasses become common after middle age. The lens also yellows with age, filtering light and muting colors. The world grows less vivid, as though seen through a faded film. Other age-related changes include cataracts, where the lens clouds, and glaucoma, where pressure damages the optic nerve. Yet the most striking change is subtle. Night vision weakens. Dim light becomes more difficult to navigate, and contrast sensitivity fades, making it harder to distinguish edges and shapes. Hearing tells a similar story. The inner ear contains tiny hair cells that vibrate with sound, translating waves into signals the brain can interpret. These cells do not regenerate, and with time, many are lost. The result is presbycusis, age-related hearing loss, most noticeable in high-pitched sounds. Bird songs grow faint, conversations in crowded rooms become difficult, and voices blur into noise. Hearing loss is not just an inconvenience, it affects memory, social connection, and even emotional health. Isolation often follows as the effort of listening grows exhausting. Taste and smell, though quieter senses, also fade. The tongue is covered in taste buds that detect sweetness, saltiness, bitterness, sourness, and umami. With age, the number of active taste buds declines and sensitivity weakens. Food that once seemed flavorful may taste bland, leading some older adults to overuse salt or sugar to compensate. Smell, tied closely to taste, often declines too, as receptors in the nose lose sensitivity. This not only affects enjoyment, but also safety, as the ability to detect spoiled food, smoke, or gas leaks diminishes. Touch, the most fundamental of senses, changes as well. The skin becomes thinner, nerve endings less responsive. Sensitivity to temperature, pressure, and pain shifts, sometimes dulled, sometimes exaggerated. A gentle bump may bruise more easily, while warmth may be harder to sense. These changes influence balance, coordination, and even emotional well-being. Touch is also deeply social, and its loss can mean less comfort from physical closeness. While these changes may seem like decline, they are also adaptations. Reduced sensitivity can shield from overwhelming stimuli. The fading of vision or hearing, though frustrating, is a natural adjustment to decades of use. And despite these losses, the senses remain capable of joy. A sunset still glows, music still moves, the taste of a favorite dish still comforts. The experiences may be softened, but they are not erased. Science continues to search for ways to preserve the senses. Cataract surgery can restore vision with remarkable clarity. Hearing aids and cochlear implants open worlds of sound. Even in taste and smell, research into regenerative therapies and sensory training offers hope. Touch, too, is supported through therapies that enhance balance and skincare that protect sensitivity. Beyond biology, there is also perspective. Many older adults learn to savor the senses more fully. A single note of music, a gentle hug, or the color of autumn leaves takes on deeper meaning when it is recognized as fleeting. In this sense, aging does not simply reduce sensation. It deepens appreciation for what remains. The fading senses remind us of a larger truth. Perception is not only about input, but about meaning. To see less clearly, to hear less sharply, is not to live less fully. It is to experience life through a softened lens, one where detail gives way to essence. And in that essence, in the sound of a loved one's voice, the taste of a shared meal, the feel of a hand held. The richness of life continues undiminished. Longevity, hotspots, blue zones, and the secrets of long life across the world. There are rare places where people live not only longer lives, but healthier ones. Here, it is common to meet men and women who reach 100 years old with sharp minds, steady hands, and warm laughter. Scientists call these regions blue zones, pockets of longevity where aging seems to follow a different rhythm. To study them is to glimpse the possibilities of human life stretched gracefully across time. One of the most famous is Okinawa, Japan. Here, elders garden daily, eat plant-rich meals of sweet potatoes, tofu, and bitter melon, and practice ikigai, a sense of purpose that gives meaning to each day. Women in Okinawa often live longer than anywhere else on Earth, and centenarians remain active well into advanced age, tending their land and caring for grandchildren. Thousands of miles away lies Sardinia, Italy, where men unusually match women in longevity. The secret seems woven into lifestyle: long walks on rugged hills, a diet rich in whole grains, beans, and red wine, and deep family ties. Elders live among children and grandchildren, surrounded by respect and connection, a daily antidote to loneliness. In Ikaria, Greece, time itself feels slower. People nap in the afternoon, share long meals of vegetables, herbs, and olive oil, and live in close-knit communities where conversation is as nourishing as food. Rates of dementia and chronic disease are remarkably low, as though stress itself has been softened by culture and rhythm. Further west lies Nicoya, Costa Rica, where elders thrive on corn, beans, tropical fruits, and daily activity. Work and family remain intertwined, and a strong spiritual outlook gives life direction and peace. Many Nicoyans reach their 90s still chopping wood, walking miles, and sharing stories beneath the sun. And in the United States, there is Loma Linda, California. Here, a community of Seventh-day Adventists lives nearly a decade longer than their neighbors. Their faith encourages rest, plant-based diets, and strong social bonds. They embody the idea that even in modern industrialized settings, lifestyle choices can profoundly shape aging. Across these diverse places, patterns emerge. Diets are largely plant-based, rich in fiber, low in processed foods. Daily activity is not forced exercise, but woven into life. Walking hills, tending gardens, preparing meals by hand. Social bonds are strong. Elders are not set aside, but remain vital members of families and communities. Purpose, whether in faith, family, or tradition, gives structure to the years. Science sees in these patterns not miracles, but evidence. Genes play a role, but only partly. Environment, behavior, and culture matter deeply. Longevity, it seems, is less about rare secrets and more about ordinary habits, repeated every day across a lifetime. Still, the blue zones remind us that aging is not only biology, but also environment. A supportive culture, nourishing food, and meaningful connections can extend not just years, but health. These lessons are powerful because they show aging is not fixed. Choices, rhythms, and communities can change its course. Imagine aging not as a slow fading, but as a long, steady flame, fueled by good food, kind company, and daily purpose. The blue zones reveal that such a life is possible, not only for a rare few, but for communities that choose to live in harmony with body and time. So why do we grow old? In part because biology tells us to, but how we grow old, whether with sickness or with grace, is shaped by the lives we build. In the quiet gardens of Okinawa, the stone villages of Sardinia, the olive groves of Ikaria, the sunlit hills of Nicoya, and the peaceful streets of Loma Linda, we see not just longer life, but better life. Aging here is not an enemy to be fought, but a companion to be walked with. Bones, joints, and the architecture of movement. Every step you take Every stretch of your hand, every bend of your spine is supported by an intricate framework. Bones, joints, and connective tissue. This skeleton is more than structure. It is a living, dynamic system constantly breaking down and rebuilding itself. But with age, the balance tilts. The body's architecture begins to shift, and movement, once effortless, becomes more fragile. Bones are not static, though they may feel like stone. They are alive, filled with cells that remodel them daily. In youth, bone-building cells called osteoblasts are highly active, creating dense, strong skeletons. But as the years pass, bone resorption, the process of breaking down old bone, outpaces bone formation. The result is gradual loss of density, especially in women after menopause when estrogen, a protector of bone strength, declines sharply. This condition, osteoporosis, makes bones porous and brittle, raising the risk of fractures from falls that once would have been harmless. Joints tell another part of the story. Each joint is cushioned by cartilage, a smooth tissue that allows bones to glide without friction. Cartilage, however, has little blood supply and does not regenerate easily. With decades of use, it thins and cracks. The once fluid motion becomes stiff, painful, and swollen. This is osteoarthritis, a condition that affects millions, turning simple movements like climbing stairs or opening jars into daily challenges. Ligaments and tendons, the connective tissues that hold muscles and bones together, also lose elasticity with time. They stiffen, reducing flexibility, while micro tears from years of activity accumulate. Injuries heal more slowly, and balance is harder to maintain. The body, once limber and quick to recover, begins to move with caution. Yet the skeletal system is not just about decline. It adapts even in age. Bones respond to stress, growing stronger with weight-bearing exercise. This is why walking, lifting, and even simple resistance training can slow bone loss dramatically. Joints too benefit from movement, as activity nourishes cartilage by circulating synovial fluid. The phrase "use it or lose it" is more than a saying, it is biology. The architecture of movement also speaks to resilience. Despite thinning bones or stiffening joints, the human body often finds ways to compensate. Muscles may take on more load, posture may adjust, and balance may shift. The gait of an older adult may look slower, but it is often an elegant adaptation, a new way of moving safely through the world. There is also a story of wisdom here. The cracks and aches of bones and joints are not failures but records of a lifetime of motion. Knees that creak may have carried miles of walking. Hands that ache may have built homes, written letters, held children. Each joint holds a memory of use, a testimony of the body's service to life. Science continues to explore solutions. Medications that slow bone resorption, therapies that restore cartilage, and regenerative techniques like stem cell treatments are advancing. The dream is not eternal youth, but longer mobility, to help people move freely, independently, and without pain into late life. But beyond medicine, there is perspective. Aging bones and joints remind us of the cost of living, that every step leaves a mark, that every movement is borrowed time. To grow old is to live inside a skeleton that has carried you faithfully, even as it shows signs of wear. The architecture of movement is fragile, yes, but it is also enduring. In the end, bones and joints teach us something profound. Motion is a privilege. The ability to stand, walk, dance, or embrace is not guaranteed forever. To notice this, to honor it, is to see aging not as simple loss, but as a deepening of gratitude for the everyday miracle of movement. Muscles and the silent battle against frailty muscles are the engines of the body, powering every movement, from lifting a glass of water to climbing a mountain. They are also silent guardians, stabilizing joints, protecting bones, and even influencing metabolism and immune health. But like every system, muscles are shaped by time. Aging gradually rewrites their story, transforming engines of strength into quieter, more fragile machines. The most striking change is sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength. Beginning as early as the 30s, muscle fibers shrink and are gradually replaced by fat and connective tissue. By the age of 70, some people lose up to 40% of their muscle mass. The loss is not uniform. Fast twitch fibers, which power quick, explosive movements, decline first. This is why running to catch a bus or rising quickly from a chair becomes harder. Slow twitch fibers, built for endurance, endure longer, but eventually weaken too. Strength is not the only thing that fades. Muscle coordination also shifts. The nerves that connect to muscle fibers decline in number, leaving some fibers abandoned and unable to contract. Movements grow less precise, balance is affected, and the risk of falls rises. What was once instinctive, stepping over an obstacle, turning suddenly, demands more attention. Metabolism is tied closely to muscle, and its decline influences the whole body. Muscles are major consumers of glucose, helping regulate blood sugar. As muscle mass shrinks, glucose control weakens, raising the risk of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Muscles also secrete proteins known as myokines, which influence inflammation, brain function, and even mood. With age, fewer muscles mean fewer of these protective signals, subtly reshaping health far beyond strength alone. Yet muscles are also among the most adaptable tissues in the body. Even in late life, they respond dramatically to training. Studies show that people in their 80s and 90s who take up resistance exercise can rebuild strength and size. The old idea that it's too late has been disproven again and again. Muscles remember how to grow even after decades of decline, and a single act, lifting, walking, moving, can spark their renewal. Nutrition plays a vital role as well. Older adults often need more protein to maintain muscle since their bodies process it less efficiently. Micronutrients like vitamin D and calcium also support muscle and bone together. Without adequate fuel, sarcopenia accelerates, leaving the body frailer. With nourishment, decline slows and vitality persists longer. The emotional impact of muscle loss cannot be ignored. To struggle with tasks that once seemed effortless, opening a jar, carrying groceries, rising from a chair, can feel like a loss of independence. This loss often echoes deeper fears of aging, fears of dependence and decline, yet resilience lies here too. Each regained bit of strength, each act of movement, can restore confidence and autonomy. There is also beauty in the story of aging muscles. They are not just machines wearing down. They are records of effort and endurance. The legs that weaken in old age may have run for decades. The hands that tremble may have built, written, embraced. Muscles hold memory, not in neurons but in fibers, stretched and torn, repaired and used again. To age in muscle is to carry the weight of lived life in physical form. Science continues to look deeper. From stem cell therapies that may rejuvenate muscle tissue to drugs that mimic the effects of exercise, researchers hope to one day slow or even reverse sarcopenia. But until then, the best medicine remains the oldest: movement itself. Every step, every stretch, every act of resistance is not just exercise. It is defiance against frailty, a quiet declaration that life still flows through muscle. So when we think of aging muscles, we should not think only of loss. We should think of adaptability, resilience, and the silent strength that remains even in weakness. For every aged muscle still holds power, not only to move the body, but to remind us of what it has carried, what it has endured, and what it can still achieve. The immune system, protection and vulnerability. In age, the immune system is our invisible shield, a vast army of cells and signals standing guard against invaders. It remembers past battles, heals wounds, and patrols every corner of the body. But like every system, it too ages, shifting from sharp vigilance to a more fragile defense. This transformation, called immunosenescence, is one of the most important, least visible aspects of growing old. In youth, the immune system is flexible and quick. When bacteria or viruses enter, white blood cells multiply rapidly, antibodies form, and infections are crushed. Vaccines teach it to recognize future threats, and the system remembers, storing knowledge for decades. But with age, its memory fades and its responses slow. The thymus, a small gland where many immune cells mature, shrinks dramatically after puberty, leaving fewer fresh soldiers entering the field. The result is a double-edged problem: weaker protection and greater risk of overreaction. Older adults often catch infections more easily and take longer to recover. A cold that would last days in a child can linger for weeks in a grandparent. Pneumonia, influenza, and shingles strike more severely, not because the pathogens are stronger, but because the immune shield is thinner. At the same time, the aging immune system can become hyperactive in unhelpful ways. It produces more inflammatory signals even without infection. This background inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging, slowly damages tissues, contributing to heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and arthritis. The body begins fighting shadows, wounding itself in the process. Cancer risk also rises with age, partly because the immune system is less vigilant in detecting and destroying rogue cells. In youth, many cancerous mutations are caught early and eliminated, but as the years pass, the surveillance weakens, and abnormal cells slip through more easily. Vaccines highlight this change vividly. While they work well in the young, they are often less effective in the old, producing weaker responses. This is why booster shots and higher dose vaccines are recommended for older adults, to coax a sluggish immune system into remembering. Yet the story is not entirely bleak. Lifestyle has a profound effect on immunity, even in later years. Regular exercise enhances circulation, helping immune cells move efficiently. A balanced diet rich in fruits, vegetables, and healthy fats provides antioxidants and micronutrients that support immune function. Sleep, often neglected, is critical, since many immune processes occur during rest. Even stress plays a role, with chronic anxiety weakening defenses while calm and connection strengthen them. There is also resilience in immunity's adaptability. Though slower, older immune systems can still learn, still respond, still protect. Even at 80 or 90, new antibodies can form. New defenses can rise. The shield may be dented, but it is never gone. Science is pushing deeper into this frontier. Researchers are exploring drugs that rejuvenate immune cells, therapies that target inflammation without weakening defenses, and even ways to regrow thymus tissue. If successful, these could extend not just life but health, keeping older adults stronger and safer in their later years. But there is a perspective beyond medicine. The immune system reflects a truth about aging itself. Balance. Too weak and the body is vulnerable. Too strong and it harms itself. With age, balance becomes harder to maintain and the body must walk a narrower path. Yet in that balance lies wisdom, a system that has fought for decades, carrying scars of countless unseen battles. To age in immunity is not just to weaken, but to reveal the cost of living. Each infection survived, each wound healed, each cancer cell destroyed. They all leave traces. The immune system of an older adult may falter, but it is also a monument to survival. Its fragility is proof of years endured. So when we speak of the aging immune system, we should not only see decline, we should see resilience, adaptation, and the quiet heroism of a shield that has protected for so long. It bends under time, but it does not break. The mathematics of mortality. Lifespan in numbers aging is not only a story told in biology and culture, it is also written in numbers. Statisticians, demographers, and scientists have long studied lifespan as if it were a grand equation, a balance of probability, chance, and limits. Behind every birthday candle blown out lies a pattern, one that mathematics can help us see more clearly. Consider life expectancy. At birth, each of us is given an average number, a statistical forecast shaped by health, environment, and history. In the 1800s, global life expectancy was less than 40 years. Today, in many nations, it is over 80. Yet this does not mean people suddenly stopped aging. It reflects fewer infant deaths, safer childbirth, antibiotics, clean water, and vaccines. Mathematics reveals the truth. Much of the rise in average lifespan is due not to stretching old age, but to protecting early life. Still, there are limits that numbers expose. Few humans live past 110, and the verified record is 122 years. Beyond that, the graph of survival curves flattens almost completely. Some scientists argue this marks a biological ceiling, while others suggest it is simply a wall we have not yet breached. Probability tells us that the older one grows, the rarer survival becomes, not impossible, but increasingly unlikely. This rarity has its own name: supercentenarians. These are the individuals who live beyond 110. They are outliers in the statistical sense, exceptions that prove the resilience of biology. But when demographers map them, patterns emerge. Many lived ordinary lives, eating no miracle diets, no perfect habits. Mathematics whispers a humbling truth. Sometimes survival into extreme old age is not the reward of discipline, but the lottery of genetics and chance. And yet, chance alone is not enough. Consider mortality rates, which describe how the risk of death changes with age. In youth, the curve is steeply downward. Survival is high. But after about age 30, the curve bends and risk doubles roughly every 8 years. This is called the Gompertz law of mortality, a simple but powerful equation that models aging across populations. It tells us that aging has a rhythm, a doubling of risk built into biology itself. Still, numbers are not destiny. Public health measures shift curves. Lifestyle choices change probabilities. If smoking raises risk, quitting lowers it. If exercise extends resilience, mathematics records the gain. The mathematics of mortality is not only about inevitability, but about margins, those extra years carved out by choices and environments. In the modern age, new tools sharpen these predictions. Actuarial tables, once used for life insurance, now intersect with genetics and machine learning. Scientists analyze massive data sets of genomes and health records, searching for patterns. Some genes appear to add a year, others subtract one. Still, none guarantee immortality. Probability rules, but never promises. There is poetry in these numbers. Imagine 100 candles on a cake. Statistics tell us how many will remain lit by age 70, by 80, by 100. Each flame represents not just a life, but the balance of biology and chance. And while the curves of probability may seem cold, they carry warmth too. They remind us that while the end is certain, the path varies, and within those margins lies freedom. Some scientists dream of bending the curves further, pushing the survival graphs upward. Could medicine one day shift the ceiling from 122 to 150 or even beyond? Mathematics says it is possible, though rare. Biology remains the stricter judge. Still, history shows that what once seemed impossible, doubling life expectancy, became real within 2 centuries. So why do we grow old? Numbers give one answer, because probability itself leans that way. Risk doubles, resilience wanes, and averages reveal the arc. But numbers also remind us of possibility. Within the graph are outliers, the rare individuals who stretch the limits, the communities that live longer, the choices that bend the curves. To look at lifespan through mathematics is to see aging as both a law and a mystery. The curves guide us, but the individual journey remains unique. For behind every equation lies a life, and behind every number, a name. Hormones. The silent messengers of aging. Hormones are the body's whispers, invisible messengers carried in the bloodstream that regulate growth, energy, mood, and reproduction. They rise and fall in delicate rhythms, guiding everything from hunger to sleep, from puberty to parenthood. But with age, these signals shift. Some fade quietly, others drop suddenly, and together they reshape the landscape of body and mind. One of the most visible changes occurs in sex hormones. In women, estrogen and progesterone fall sharply during menopause, ending reproductive cycles. This transition, though natural, brings hot flashes, mood swings, and sleep disturbances. But its effects ripple further. Bone density declines without estrogen's protective influence, and the risk of osteoporosis increases. In men, testosterone levels decline more gradually, leading to reduced muscle mass, slower recovery, and sometimes lower energy or libido. These changes are often subtle, but they accumulate, influencing vitality in ways both physical and emotional. Growth hormone, once abundant in youth, also declines with age. This hormone fuels repair, regeneration, and the building of muscle and bone. Its decline contributes to the thinning of skin, the loss of lean mass, and slower healing. Similarly, insulin, the hormone that regulates blood sugar, becomes less effective in older adults. Cells grow resistant, forcing the body to produce more, and over time, this imbalance can lead to diabetes. Cortisol, the stress hormone, tells another story. In youth, it spikes when needed, during danger or challenge, then falls. But with age, cortisol levels often remain elevated for longer, contributing to anxiety, poor sleep, and even memory decline. Chronic stress accelerates many signs of aging, from weakened immunity to heart disease, showing how tightly hormones and lifestyle are bound together. Even melatonin, the hormone of sleep, declines over time. This is why older adults often struggle with insomnia or fragmented rest. The brain's pineal gland, which produces melatonin, responds less to light cues, making circadian rhythms harder to regulate. The result is nights that feel restless and days that feel heavy. Yet not all hormonal changes are negative. Some shifts bring unexpected resilience. Lower testosterone and estrogen are linked to reduced risks of certain cancers. Higher levels of certain stress adaptation hormones may make older adults less reactive to daily frustrations. The hormonal landscape changes, but it is not simply decline, it is rebalancing. Modern medicine has explored ways to restore hormones, from estrogen replacement after menopause to testosterone therapy for men. While these treatments can relieve symptoms, they also carry risks, reminding us that hormones are not just chemicals, but part of a larger system of balance. Too much or too little can tip the scales toward harm. What makes hormones fascinating is how sensitive they are to lifestyle. Exercise naturally boosts growth hormone and testosterone. Meditation and deep sleep reduce cortisol. Exposure to morning light strengthens melatonin rhythms. Food choices to protein, healthy fats, and balanced sugars help regulate insulin. Even in later years, the silent messengers still listen to how we live, adapting to the signals we provide. The poetry of hormones is this: they are the background music of life. In childhood, the music is fast and bright, full of growth. In adulthood, it is strong and steady. In age, the tempo slows, the notes soften, but the melody continues. Each stage has its rhythm, its unique tone. To age in hormones is not to lose the music, but to hear a different song, quieter perhaps, but no less profound. So when we consider aging through the lens of hormones, we see not only endings but transformations. The silent messengers that once drove growth and fertility now turn toward balance and conservation. They remind us that the body is not static, but always adapting. And even as signals fade, the wisdom of the system remains. A lifetime of rhythms written in blood, guiding us into the next chapter of life. The aging heart and blood. The pulse of time. With every heartbeat, life is pushed forward. The heart contracts about 100,000 times a day, sending blood through a network of vessels long enough to circle the earth twice. This system, heart, arteries, and veins, is not just plumbing. It is rhythm, pulse, and flow. But like all systems, it bears the marks of time. Aging does not stop the heart, but it does change the way it beats. In youth, the heart is flexible. its walls supple and strong. Blood moves easily, filling and emptying with each beat. But with age, the heart stiffens. The left ventricle, its main pumping chamber, becomes less elastic. This means it cannot fill as quickly, especially during exertion. Exercise that once felt effortless now leaves the body breathless. Even without disease, the simple fact of aging makes the heart less efficient at responding to sudden demands. The vessels tell their own story. Arteries, which carry blood away from the heart, slowly harden as their elastic walls are replaced with stiffer fibers and tiny deposits of calcium. This stiffening raises blood pressure, forcing the heart to work harder. Over decades, the strain reshapes the heart itself, thickening its walls in an effort to cope. Hypertension, high blood pressure, becomes one of the most common hallmarks of aging. Veins, meanwhile, weaken in their valves, allowing blood to pool in the legs. This is why varicose veins appear more often in older adults, and why swelling in the ankles or feet becomes common. Though not always dangerous, these changes reflect the quiet slowing of circulation, as though the great rivers of the body are beginning to meander. The blood itself also changes with time. Bone marrow, the factory of new blood cells, grows less productive. Red blood cell production slows, sometimes leading to anemia and fatigue. The immune cells carried in the blood age too, as we've seen before, weakening the body's defenses. Even platelets, the cells that help blood clot, may become stickier, raising the risk of clots and strokes. Yet the aging cardiovascular system is not only decline, it is also resilience. Many older adults live into their 90s with strong, steady hearts. Why? Because the heart is remarkably adaptive. Regular exercise keeps vessels flexible, strengthens the heart muscle, and improves blood flow. Diets rich in fruits, vegetables, and healthy fats reduce inflammation and protect arteries. Even habits like meditation and deep breathing lower blood pressure and ease strain. The heart listens to how we live, and even in later years, it can thrive. Science adds more hope. Medications for blood pressure, cholesterol, and clot prevention have extended life expectancy worldwide. Advanced procedures like stents, bypass surgeries, and pacemakers keep the pulse steady long after problems arise. What once would have ended life early is now often managed for decades. But beyond biology and medicine, the aging heart carries symbolism. It is not only a pump, it is a metaphor for vitality. To feel the heartbeat slower or faster, weaker or stronger, is to feel time itself. Older adults often become more aware of their heartbeat, of its fragility, of its endurance. Each pulse is a reminder that life continues, even when it feels slower. Perhaps the most profound truth is this: the heart never rests. From the first flicker in the womb until the last moment of life, it beats without pause. Aging may stiffen it, may slow it, may challenge it, but it never willingly stops. It carries us through decades of joy and stress, love and loss, always faithful. So when we think of the aging cardiovascular system, we should see not only strain and risk, but loyalty. The heart is the most steadfast companion we will ever have. Its changes are not betrayals, but simply the marks of long service. To listen to an older heartbeat is to hear a story written in rhythm, a story of endurance, persistence, and time itself. Skin, hair, and the outward signs of time aging is often first noticed not in the bones or heart, but in the mirror. The skin thins, hair grays, lines deepen. These changes may seem superficial, but they carry deeper meaning. Skin and hair are the body's most visible storytellers, revealing both the biology beneath and the years lived. Skin is a remarkable organ, the largest in the body, covering about 20 square feet. In youth, it is elastic, supple, and quick to heal. Collagen and elastin fibers weave a network that gives skin firmness and bounce. Blood vessels deliver nutrients, and oil glands keep it soft. But with age, this system slows. Collagen production drops, elastin stiffens, and the skin begins to sag. Wrinkles form not overnight, but gradually. as the scaffolding beneath the surface weakens. Sunlight plays a starring role in this process. Ultraviolet rays penetrate skin, breaking down collagen and creating free radicals that damage DNA. Over years, this exposure accumulates into spots, roughness, and deeper creases. This is why areas often exposed, the face, hands, arms, age faster than sheltered parts of the body. It is not just time that writes on the skin, but light itself. Beneath the skin, fat layers shrink, leaving less cushion and volume. This makes veins and bones more visible, and cuts or bruises heal more slowly. Oil glands dry, reducing the skin's natural barrier. Older skin often feels thinner, more fragile, as though the protective shield of youth has worn down. Hair too carries the marks of time. Each strand grows from a follicle, nourished by pigment-producing cells called melanocytes. Over time, these cells slow and die, leaving hair without color. Gray and white strands emerge, not as a sudden change, but as a quiet retreat of pigment. Texture also shifts. Hair becomes finer, drier, and sometimes sparse as follicles shrink. In men, baldness often follows genetic patterns, while women may see thinning across the scalp after menopause. Yet these outward signs are not only decline, they are records of survival. Each wrinkle marks a smile, a squint in sunlight, a furrow of worry. Grey hair speaks of years endured, lessons learned, and lives shaped. To see aging in the mirror is to see proof of existence, that the body has carried us through decades of experience. Science and culture have long sought to soften these signs. Creams promise to restore collagen, dyes return hair to its youthful shades, and surgeries lift sagging skin. These may delay appearance, but they cannot stop the deeper biology. For beneath the surface, time keeps working, rebuilding less, repairing slower, conserving more. Still, not all changes are negative. With age, skin often becomes less oily, reducing acne. Wrinkles and grey hair can carry dignity and wisdom, symbols of a life lived. In many cultures, these marks are not flaws, but badges of respect, signs of endurance and knowledge. Beauty does not vanish with youth, it transforms. Lifestyle also shapes how skin and hair age. Diets rich in antioxidants protect against free radicals. Hydration keeps skin fuller, and sleep allows repair. Avoiding smoking and excessive sun preserves collagen, slowing visible decline. While no one escapes aging, choices can influence its pace, leaving some with vibrant skin and hair well into their 70s or beyond. In the end, skin and hair remind us that aging is both biological and symbolic. They reflect the invisible processes within, the slowing of cell renewal, the wear of light and time. But they also reflect identity. They carry our expressions, our individuality, our history. The face that changes over decades is still ours, still recognizable, even as time reshapes it. To age in skin and hair is to wear the passage of years openly. The mirror may show fragility, but it also shows resilience. Every line, every shade, every strand is proof that we are still here, still alive, still moving through the endless story of time. The senses, seeing, hearing, and feeling. Time our senses connect us to the world. Through sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell, we gather experience, memory, and meaning. They shape every moment. And the color of a sunset, the sound of a voice, the taste of a meal. Yet with age, these gateways to reality shift. They do not close entirely, but they grow narrower, changing how the world reaches us. Sight is often the first to fade. The clear lens of the eye slowly yellows and stiffens, making it harder to focus on nearby objects. Reading glasses become common not as a flaw, but as a mark of middle age. With time, the lens may cloud into cataracts, scattering light and blurring vision. The retina, the thin sheet of light-sensitive cells at the back of the eye, also changes. Some cells die, reducing sharpness or creating blind spots. Age-related macular degeneration becomes one of the leading causes of vision loss. Even the pupils shrink, letting in less light, which is why older adults often prefer brighter rooms. Hearing, too, is reshaped by time. Tiny hair cells in the inner ear, responsible for translating vibrations into signals, gradually wear out. High-pitched sounds are lost first, the chirp of birds, the subtle notes in music, the softer parts of speech. This condition, called presbycusis, can make conversations harder, especially in noisy places. The decline is slow but profound, affecting connection and communication. Taste and smell also grow duller. The number of taste buds declines, and olfactory receptors in the nose become less sensitive. Flavors that were once vivid feel muted, and meals lose some of their richness. This can lead to less appetite or preference for stronger seasonings. But these senses rarely disappear completely. Even in late life, food and fragrance can still bring joy, just in quieter tones. Touch, the most constant of senses, also changes. Skin thins and nerve endings decline, making sensations less sharp. Sensitivity to temperature, pressure, or pain may fade. A glass may feel less secure in the hand, or a bruise may go unnoticed. Yet the emotional power of touch remains. A hand held, a hug, or a gentle stroke continues to carry warmth and reassurance, perhaps even more deeply as other senses fade. These changes can be challenging, not only physically, but emotionally. Losing the sharpness of vision or hearing can feel like losing access to parts of life. It can isolate, making conversation harder or beauty harder to see. But technology and adaptation soften the blow. Glasses restore clarity, hearing aids amplify sound, and medical advances slow degeneration. The senses may age, but they need not silence experience. There is also another way to view these shifts. They can make the world quieter, less overwhelming. With less sensory bombardment, some older adults describe life as calmer, simpler, more focused. The loss of detail does not erase meaning. Sometimes it amplifies it. A familiar voice may matter more than perfect hearing, a warm touch more than sharp sensation. Science continues to search for ways to preserve the senses, from retinal implants that restore vision to cochlear devices that return hearing. One day, technology may keep these gateways open longer than biology alone allows. But even now, the senses in age remain powerful. A sunset may be blurred, but its colors still stir. A song may be muffled, but its rhythm still comforts. Taste may be muted, but a shared meal still nourishes more than the body. The senses may fade, but they never lose their ability to connect, to carry meaning, to remind us of the world's presence. To age in the senses is not only to lose, but to adapt. The world grows softer, but it does not vanish. And sometimes, in that softness, there is new beauty, a quieter, gentler way of perceiving life. The final mystery, longevity, death, and the meaning of aging. Every heartbeat, every breath, every grey hair points toward a truth we cannot escape. Life is finite. We age because the body is not designed for permanence. Cells falter, systems weaken, and eventually the great rhythm stops. Yet within this inevitability lies mystery. Why do we grow old at all? Why does nature allow decline instead of endless renewal? And what does it mean for us as human beings to face the passage of time? One scientific answer comes from evolutionary trade-offs. Nature values survival until reproduction, ensuring that genes pass forward. Once that mission is complete, the forces of natural selection grow weaker. Traits that protect youth are favored. Traits that protect old age are less essential. This explains why aging exists at all, not as a flaw, but as a byproduct of how life sustains itself across generations. Another answer comes from biology's limits. DNA mutates with every replication, And though repair systems are remarkable, they are not perfect. Proteins misfold, telomeres shorten, and oxidative stress leaves scars. Over decades, the damage accumulates, too vast to erase completely. Aging may simply be the cost of living, entropy applied to biology. But there is another view, one less scientific and more reflective. Aging gives shape to life. If time were endless, moments would lose urgency. Joy would not be as sweet, achievements not as meaningful, love not as precious. It is the awareness of mortality that sharpens experience. The wrinkle on a face, the tremor in a hand, the slowing of a step. These are not only losses, but reminders that every day matters. Still, humanity resists aging. Science pursues longevity with fervor. Researchers study calorie restriction, genetic engineering, senolytic drugs that clear out worn cells, and even the possibility of reversing aging processes. Some predict lifespans far beyond what we know today. Others warn that length without meaning is not progress but burden. The question is not only how long we live, but how well. Death, though feared, is also natural. In ecosystems, it allows renewal. In families, it makes space for future generations. In individuals, it brings closure to a story that could not be infinite. To age is to walk a path every living thing shares, from the smallest insect to the largest whale. There is dignity in that universality, but for humans, aging is more than biology. It is memory, wisdom, and identity. The aged body may weaken, but the aged mind often holds perspective that only time can give. Grandparents share stories that outlive them. Elders carry traditions, guidance, and lessons. The value of age is not only measured in cells, but in meaning. So why do we grow old? Perhaps the simplest answer is that we are meant to. Aging is the rhythm that shapes the song of life. It limits us, yes, but it also defines us. Without it, we would not cherish youth, we would not strive, we would not love with urgency. As we close this journey through the science of aging, remember, the body grows old, but meaning does not. Each wrinkle is a story, each grey hair a mark of survival, each passing year a testament that you are still here. The science of aging explains the how, but it is life itself that gives the why, and so let us carry the truth gently. Aging is not an enemy, but a companion, guiding us toward the end even as it reminds us to live. To grow old is to be given time, and time, however long, is the most extraordinary gift of all.